If you go back 10 years, we had a vision at Iceberg to be a center point in a state agency for transformation. Not just, oh, you can do a nicer brochure. No, I'm talking about true transformation of the way the industry works. And we realized that to do that, there are many aspects that a company needs to change. And there just isn't the ability to go and find those aspects in a state agency, unfortunately. There was nobody that we could partner with that could coach our agents through the type of training that we were talking about. So we had to create a coaching department. There were no CRMs out there that could cope with the way that we were thinking about things. So we had to build a CRM system. There was no one out there that could build websites the way we wanted websites to build. So we've had to build a website system. And now we're getting to the age of artificial intelligence. Of course, we're having to build that side of things as well. And this community of agents that we've built that help each other is unheard of in a state agency. So Iceberg has always been about trying to help people to transform over into a way of working that's going to put moats around their business and really make them stronger in the long term, to protect against the competition, charge better fees, and be able to have more freedom inside their business, work smarter. We had to do that with the CRM to start with. We've brought coaching into it, which a lot of you have benefited from. Now we're bringing the website experience to start to have more interaction with the clients. And now we can finally put together this accelerator program, which is going to totally take people to a whole nother place, really bringing back the whole vision of Iceberg. At the moment, when an inquiry comes in, the very first thing that you probably have to ask that person is when they would like to go and see the property. So we've removed this by adding the function to the page where a person can choose their preferred time and date, so that when the inquiry comes into your leads, you can already see ideally when they would like to go to that property. We make it clear that it might not be possible and that it has to be confirmed by the agent, but it just removes that one extra step of you having to go back and ask them when it is they wanted to go. This leads us to the next point, which is that from leads, you can then actually book the viewing. So if someone is qualified, they have a search profile, because without a search profile, you can't book a viewing. If someone has a search profile, then you will have the ability to click book a viewing. It will default to their ideal time preference, date preference, and you can then change that to whatever you might decide it needs to be. Your applicants, your buyers, can actually go through the process of making a formal offer and submitting it to you online. It's going to save you so much time, so much messing around that happens at the moment with email or telephone tennis trying to qualify somebody. Now the way it works is that somebody books a viewing, they do the viewing, they automatically get sent an email asking them for viewing feedback. That's the way it's always worked with Lifecycle. They start filling out that form. If on the form they say that they are interested in making an offer, they will get redirected to an offer form where they put in all of the relevant details so that you've got a fully qualified offer landing inside your Lifecycle system while you sleep. It will ask them what they're doing about their mortgage, ask them to prove their funds, ask them to upload their AIP if they're buying with cash, show proof of cash, what solicitor they're using, all of these things. Now, of course, they don't have to fill any of that out. Legally, you're not allowed to say, I'm not putting the offer forward until we've got all this information. So it's optional, but they're being presented with the questions. And so what should happen is that you will come into work and find that you have a new offer sitting inside Lifecycle with all of that information already pre-qualified for you to be able to then go to your seller and give them an informed set of information for them to be able to make a decision, removing tons of back and forward and wasting of time and allowing you to just focus on the meaningful work. For your buyers themselves, it's a much smoother process as well for them to be able to input all of this information online, as opposed to getting into emails back and forward, sending sensitive documents over to you via email, and you having to ask questions that you weren't really sure about asking. This just streamlines the whole process. Along with that, we've rebuilt the way the offer screens and the viewing feedbacks work inside Lifecycle so that you can now add notes to those screens. an offer that's inside lifecycle, you have the ability to actually add notes in the same way that you can do when you have tasks. So you can keep a timeline of things that are going on. If you've left a message for somebody, or if John in the office has done something in particular, they can leave a note, and the next person to go into that viewing feedback or that offer can see what was going on with it. Next up is a big one. I'm going to totally transform the way that your agency takes on properties. For estate agents that don't use lifecycle, they book someone in for a market appraisal, they go out and see the person, they send them an email afterwards just saying this is what I think your house is worth, and then they chase them up a few times. That's the end of the deal. You already elevated yourselves from there, because in lifecycle, you go out, you send a pre-appointment email, they go into a nurture journey, you send over the market appraisal report, you can see whenever they're looking at it, they're being nurtured through emails, and you're getting notifications whenever they're active and looking at things. So you're already winning. Now let's take it on another stage. Currently in lifecycle, what happens when somebody looks at their market appraisal and they reach the point where they've decided they want to go ahead, they can click that proceed button and you receive an email saying, Mark Burgess has said that he wants to go ahead. Good luck. Send him the contract. You go into contracts, you build the contract, you send it to them electronically, they fill it out. And after that, you have to go through the whole process of onboarding that person and getting them ready to go on the market. It's all pretty standard stuff. That's about to change, and it's going to change forever. So what's going to happen in Lifecycle 4 is that when somebody clicks the proceed button on a market appraisal, they'll be taken over to an electronic version of the contract based on the information that was in the market appraisal. So if you've quoted them 1.5 or 2% and they decide to click proceed, no negotiation necessary. The contract will be created with that information in it, their address, all of the information that you need for them to be able to sign it. Once they've signed the contract, they will then be taken to an electronic version of the property information questionnaire, whereby they will go through the steps of completing that long process and putting in all of the information about the house that you need to know. You don't have to send them a 16-page PDF anymore, ask them to print it out, fill it out, scan it, send it back to you, and then for you to manually put that information inside Lifecycle. They will go through the process. It's a long process, but if they leave halfway through and then come back, it will continue from where they left off. So they can do it in chunks. I know you might want to put it on the market before they've finished completing that questionnaire, so that's not a problem. But they can go through completing all that information. Once they have completed it, what the system will do is it will put all that information into a PDF for you and store it inside the Lifecycle system. They can also do their ID check and their AML check online, and that will go straight into the system too. So what you could end up with is a situation whereby you come into work on a Monday morning, and not only have you got an instruction from somebody that you did a market appraisal for 6 months ago because they've been getting nurtured, you've got the instruction, you've got a signed contract, you've got a fully completed property information questionnaire, the AML check is done, the property ID is done, and this thing is ready to go on the market. This is going to change things so much for you guys that you'll be looking across at other estate agents that are still doing it the traditional way and thinking to yourself like, what? Who in their right mind would do that? On top of that, it's a massive instruction winner, because when you sit down with clients on evaluation or market appraisal, you can start to tell them how you work and start to show them some of the ways that you embrace technology, and it's a benefit to them as opposed to it just being a benefit to you. Along with that, we will connect up to Land Registry and allow you to get the title documents straight into the system too. So of course you still have to pay Land Registry for that, like you still have to pay for an AML check, but it should just make the whole thing much more convenient. On the basis of the AML and the ID check, it's a separate part of the system that works on contacts. So that will allow you to do an ID check and an AML check on any contact in the system, which means that when your deals get tied up with buyers, you can send them a link to perform their AML check as well. It's not built into the property information questionnaire. It's something that you can perform on any contact and send them a link at any time, and you'll be able to complete your know your client steps and anti-money laundering. So today I'm going to talk to you about the very first real estate specific artificial intelligence. I know there are other companies out there that are talking about using artificial intelligence inside their system, but essentially what they're doing is basically allowing you to use ChatGPT in your software. We have built a tool called Uzair that is approved by Microsoft as a standalone artificial intelligence tool for this particular sector. We will start at basic with you guys. We're not going to put all of the functions in there, but I can tell you already, I've seen some of the things that this thing can do, and it's pretty mind-blowing. The way that Uzair works is inside the system, it will act as your assistant. So to start with, as I say, we'll keep these tools reasonably straightforward. The two things that you would probably expect it to be able to do that you could argue potentially could be done in ChatGPT: property descriptions and blogs. So how will that side of Uzair work? Basically, you go into the system, there's an icon that you can see dotted around inside Lifecycle, the Uzair icon. When you click it, it'll open up, and you have the option of being able to choose for it to create a property description. If you're on a property, it knows which one you're probably trying to do it for. If you're not, you choose the property, and the system will then create the description for you. Yeah, you could potentially go to ChatGPT and do that. This just saves you a bit of time, effort, and makes it much more convenient for you to do that. We're not using ChatGPT to do this. We're using a different system to do that. So the results might be slightly different based on whether it's a property description or whether it's a blog. For a blog, again, you go into the system and you give it a couple of prompts. We're not at the stage yet whereby you can say things like, write me a statistical analysis of my area. We will get there pretty soon. But at the moment, what we're talking about is articles. You'll decide what the title of that article is, and then you should give us there some guidance, a couple of prompts in terms of the angles that you're looking for. You know, for instance, take into account the fact that cost of living is high at the moment. Take into account the fact that interest rates are higher but seem to be decreasing at the moment. That sort of stuff. Uzair will guide you through it. So you haven't got to be a mastermind at figuring out what to type in. It will ask you questions and you'll answer very basic questions, and from there it will create your content for you, allowing you to just create new blogs for the Lifecycle system, whether it be for your nurture journeys or just for general social media, at the click of a button. The final tool that we're going to put inside Uzair to start with is one that's a little bit more specific and hasn't been done before in a estate agency, and that's automated vendor and landlord feedback. Not something that you can go to ChatGPT and just do yourself, because it requires all of the data that's sitting inside Lifecycle to work. So you'll be able to go onto a property and say that you're going to need to give some sort of feedback to this landlord or vendor. Uzair will figure out how many days that property has been live for you for and ask how many days you want him to cover in the feedback. And then he'll go investigate all the information inside Lifecycle in terms of like how long it's been on the market, which portals it's been on with, how many web views it's had, how many potential viewings, how many matches, how many viewings, what the feedback from those viewings were, if there's any offers, what the situation with is. Figure all that information out and write it beautifully for you as a starting point for you to then look through and see if there's anything that you might want to change before you send it over to the vendor. This is going to save hours and hours and hours of work for people, and also improve your communications with the clients, because there is no excuse anymore. So if you have such a thing as a feedback Friday that you dread, whereby you're going to have to start compiling all the information, putting it all together, let alone writing the email or making the phone call, all that work has just suddenly gone away. Uzair will compile all that and write it for you. And yes, of course, you might decide to slightly edit it or change some of the ways that it's worded things, but it's going to make it so much easier and so much faster, and it's going to improve communication between you and your clients. There's a plugin, an optional plugin for Uzair called Uzair Engage. This one is paid for and is client facing, B2C. And the purpose of Uzair Engage is to turn website browsers into committed clients. Crazy concept, right? The idea being that when somebody goes to your website, and you don't have to have had your website built with us for this, it works in the same way as the pages that are a bit like your instant val tool, or maybe the property search, things like that, whereby it's it can be on a lifecycle domain and just a link on your website. But on your website, you can say to people now, like, looking to do a bit more research, why don't you let our assistant help you? And when they go to that page, Uzair will guide them through questions, a conversational based interaction, if you like, where first of all, it'll ask them questions like, would you say that you're really looking to do research as a buyer or a seller or a landlord or a tenant? And let's say they say as a seller. Okay, no problem. Next thing that Uzair might ask them would be questions like, would you say that you are in a situation whereby you're just started looking around and want to get an idea of what your house is worth and what the demand for it might be? Or would you say that you're at a situation whereby you're on the market with another agent and you want to get an idea if they're performing well? Maybe you've heard of our company before and you know what your property's worth and you just want to get it on the market. It will have options and conversational style for them to go through and complete. Basically, what will give you an incredible lead, regardless of whether they're on the market with another agent. If they had chose that option, it would ask them things like, okay, well, let's find out, how long have you been on the market? What did you value the property at? And what did the agent value it at? How many viewings have you had? How many offers have you had? All of this information, which is going to come through to you as leads. Same thing, if they just want to get an idea of what my property's worth, then it'll work in the same similar way to a instant valuation and still come through as a lead. If they could go a bit further than that, after they've had their valuation, do you want to see what sort of demand there is for your property? And the system will take them on to a page where you, again, can be completely transparent and really break down and show this person what sort of people you have that match against their specific property at the price that they are looking for, leaving them in no question as to the fact that you're the agent that could sell their property. And importantly, putting you in a position whereby you can start saying to people, if you come across an agent that doesn't have this kind of transparency on their website, you should really start to question what it is that they've got to hide and why they're not showing you that information. A lot of you will have heard about Neuron, but I'm just going to give you a little bit more information on exactly how Neuron works, our process that we work through. So we work in a 3-step process with Neuron. The problem that we identified with estate agents and their websites is that the way it works for most estate agents is you go to a website company, they say, okay, pick a template, and they've got thousands to choose from, and you get overloaded, you don't really know which one to go with, so you sort of go, yeah, that one looks good. And then I go, great, okay, well, we'll make that. And if you give us your text and your images, and we'll connect up the properties and make it live. And you get a bit stuck because you're not a copywriter. And for many of you, you may not have been through the process of actually formally identifying what the company stands for and all of the sort of things that you might need on a website to be quite concise. You haven't got imagery, you haven't got video, you haven't got really much to put there. So what you end up doing is copying and pasting some shit text from another estate agent's website, or getting ChatGPT to write you something very generic, and you put that on there for the time being. It ends up staying there. You get some stock images of some people shaking hands and looking happy, and your website's live. And at the end of it, you're kind of a bit like, this is just a bit crap. You find yourself making changes to it to try and improve it, but it just doesn't really do anything. And this is a key part of the problem that we found over doing 2 years of research on what happens with estate agents' websites and why they don't like them. So our infrastructure at Neuron is completely different to that. What happens with us is that we work in 3 specific phases, and you can leave at any one of those phases, but independently, they all have a value. So we break the entire cost of the website down into 3 sections. And the first section is based around really getting to grips with us and you agreeing and understanding who you are and what you stand for. And that's not an easy project to go through, but we will use our own expertise and the people that we've got in-house to be able to work with you. We're not going to ask you the simple question, what do you stand for? We will spend a day with you going through general questions whereby you're just giving us information, and we will then go away over the course of 2 to 3 weeks working on that document without your help in the background to actually create the DNA of your company and come back and say, okay, as a team, this is who we are. This is what you stand for. This is who you are trying to reach. This is who you are not trying to reach. This is your tone of voice. This is who the company is. And we can tweak it and we can play with it until we get to the stage whereby you agree and we know exactly who the company is and what you stand for. That's stage 1. Stage 2, we will then send in the UK's top videography company and get the content created. We've got a tight partnership with PVS Media, and they will come to your location and film videos based on the mainframe document that we've already created. So we'll ask for their expertise on, like, how do we bring this to life through video? What is it that we're going to talk about and how we're going to do it? They will come and they will spend a day with you creating content, getting professional headshots, and really making everything that your company stands for come to life. From there, what we will do is we will then start piecing all of the website together, and it should come out the other end being the most amazing thing that you've ever seen. So the actual style of the website is not that big a deal. Pretty much every style you can think of is already sitting out there on the internet. There's no point in us getting too caught up on that. Almost every website you look at is a similar style. We'll do the work of finding a style that we think works for what you've told us in the mainframe document. And we'll come back to you with maybe a couple of options and go, look, we think this style would really work, and this is the reason why we think this style would work. If you don't like that, here's a second option. That's not that complicated a process. The complicated part starts with, like, okay, now how do we take that style, what you've told us in the mainframe document, all the content, and really bring this company into truly representing your business online so that somebody is getting the same experience when they hit your website as they would get if they was to actually visit your office. That's how Neuron works. Now, where does Uzair Engage come into that? Here's the clever part. When someone visits your website that is already known inside your ecosystem, i.e. lifecycle, Uzair will know, and it can scan all of lifecycle faster than you can blink your eye and recreate the content that is on the web page. As an example, you might have a homepage whereby you've got a nice video at the top that represents the company. There may be a property search, there may be some testimonials, maybe some guides after that. If I've had a market appraisal from you and I live in a 3-bedroom semi-detached house on the Nightingale estate, when I visit the website, Uzair can know that faster than it takes for the page to load, and suddenly the banner at the top is talking about the fact that we are the most successful estate agent in the Nightingale estate. The property search has been removed and the testimonials are up the top. And the next thing down is something around the idea of wanting to instruct us. If I've done an instant valuation or used Uzair Engage to become a lead, but I haven't yet done a market appraisal, when I visit the site, it can change to push me towards actually doing a market appraisal. So it might talk about the fact that we're the top performing agent in the area. If you've ever done an online valuation, you might want to actually get someone round face to face. All the sort of things that you've spoken about before in your nurture journeys, you can now actually start to become a reality on the website. For those of you that have got guides, if it knows that I'm a first-time buyer, it can be promoting a first-time buyer guide. If it knows that I'm a downsizer, it can be promoting a downsizer guide. All of these things to make you much more useful, continue to have more touch points, work on that 7-11-4 process, and turn those leads into committed customers. So you can see now how Uzair Engage is taking a general website visitor. If you've just got a standard property website, they're going to hit your website, you're never going to know any more about it. Azure Engage is going to try and get them and turn them into a lead that sits inside your lifecycle system. Now, it's one big ecosystem. If you've got a neuron website, what's happening is when that person hits your website, because you're nurturing them and sending them blog content and they're continually going back there, the website's changing and it's putting the right information in front of them to try and nudge them through the funnel to becoming a committed customer. In the future, what could happen with Azure Engage, or what will happen with Azure Engage? Again, we already know the enhancements that will happen on Azure Engage from a business to consumer point of view, and it will put you right at the forefront of artificial intelligence and allowing people to really come to your website and probably just have more of a conversation with your AI about what it is that they're looking for. And the AI will then be able to present them the properties that match against what they're looking for, could work based on what they're looking for. And the whole thing will just become much more of a two-way conversation whereby we can build that trust that somebody has, and you'll be able to use it as a unique selling point over some of your other estate agents who are going to start to look decidedly out of date pretty fast if what they've got sitting on their website is an instant valuation tool and a form. I've got around 25 years experience now in business. For the first 10 to 15 years of that, my businesses were okay. I had some that did pretty good. I had some that did particularly bad. The usual kind of story that you would find from any entrepreneur. I then accidentally fell into this group of people that had all built £100 million businesses. And I started to learn from these people, learn things that were just alien to me. I'd never learnt this stuff. I barely finished school, let alone learn how you do a pitch, learn how you identify what your company stands for, learn how to charge the fees that you want, learn how to do marketing. I never knew any of that stuff. And it totally transformed my life and my business. From there, I went on and built 7-figure businesses. I've now built 8-figure businesses. Things couldn't be more different. I've written 2 best-selling books around these subjects, been featured on some incredible places, spoken around the world. I want to be able to bring that information to estate agents. I want to have the same impact that was had on me to a group of estate agents. And so I'm fortunate enough to know some world-class people that can come in and teach our agents about that. I can get involved in it. Rob Brady, our elite performance coach, can get involved in it. And it will be a 12-month accelerator program. It will allow you to really start to turn your business from being something that you started for freedom and ended up shackled to, reliant on clients and money and no time and no freedom, and really break free of those chains and build the business that you always wanted with the knowledge that somehow you just were never fortunate enough to have access to. So the way the process will work is it will cover 12 months. There will be 6 in-person workshops roughly every other month. We'll try and avoid any school holidays and things like that. So it might not be exactly every other month, but there'll be 6 in-person workshops over the course of the year. There'll also be 6 online sessions between the workshops to try to refocus. Because quite often what can happen is you find yourself going to a workshop thinking this is all brilliant, then you get back to work and you never do anything about it. And so we have these refocus sessions in between whereby you can come back on and you can openly admit, I genuinely have done nothing about this. And our coaches can bring you back online and bring you back so that by the time you get back to that workshop, you've actually moved on in your business. From my own experience, it's important that there are 2 people at least that come to those workshops from your company. One should be a visionary, somebody that's able to really think about the future, what the company stands for, why it exists. Even if you don't know it at the moment, they would probably be the person to ask. And another person that is just super, super organized. They might not be a visionary. They might not be able to answer that question. But when you ask them to get something done, there is no doubt in your mind that it is going to get done. If you can find at least those 2 people, then this will work amazingly for your company.